Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty here with Castlevania Season 1, Episode 2, Necropolis. So when we last left off, Dracula had just let the forces of hell loose on Wallachia to avenge his wife, while in a bar somewhere, a guy who may or may not be a Belmont was listening to some drunk dude prattling on. I'm curious where things will go from here, so let's get started. I thought we were actually getting the intro at the start, but it was just a few seconds of it. Is this a Netflix thing? I covered their Wednesday series before this, and they also either cut down or removed the opening after the first episode. Anyway, the episode picks up where it left off, with that same drunk guy ranting about families like the Belmonts, and how people like him and the other patrons don't matter. I do get where he's coming from, since when you're born poor, it can be near impossible to get out of that situation. That's unfortunately something I have been experiencing all my life, especially as of late with this current business. Out of his coping mechanism, a possible Belmont heads over to the bar for some more, only for the angry drunk guy to spot the crest hidden beneath his cloak. Who the heck wears a crest on their shirt? Aren't those typically on, like, rings or weapons or something? Anyway, the drunk guy is naturally none too pleased, given his earlier rant, and the man who is now almost certainly a Belmont is pretty drunk himself and barely able to respond, though he does try to deny it. I'm glad he does that much, because I was thinking he should just claim to have stolen the shirt or something. The others won't let him leave, clearly raring for a fight. We learn from the angrier drunk that the people believe the Belmonts dabbled in black magic and that they were excommunicated from the church, banished, and even had their lands taken. Not sure where in the timeline this takes place, but as someone who knows how many members of the Belmont clan have gone up against Dracula and his minions, this just seems so unfair. Also kind of makes me wonder why on earth he's walking around with that crest on his shirt, if they're so hated. The angry drunk blames the Belmonts for Dracula unleashing hordes of monsters on Wallachia, and unless that bishop was secretly one of them, I have my doubts that this is the case. Angry drunk punches and demands a confession out of the other guy, who thankfully identifies himself as actually being Jesus of Nazareth. But this turns out to be a lie, because after angry drunk kicks him where it hurts, which I don't think I've ever seen a guy do before, he suddenly chooses to admit that he is Trevor Belmont. Was that the protagonist of Castlevania 3? I played 3 a lot. I freaking love the Clock Tower stage, but there's not really much in the way of dialogue, so I honestly can't remember what the protagonist's name is. I do know some other characters from 3 appear in this, though. Anyway, he's apparently the last son of the Belmont family. Why is there always just one? You'd think this family would be having kids left and right if their bloodline is that important. I mean, I know now they've apparently fallen from grace or something, but it feels like there's always just one. Why don't we get a bunch of siblings all taking on Dracula's castle at once, like some sort of co-op multiplayer game? So a fight breaks out, Trevor has a hard time due to how wasted he is, and then the last Belmont dies. Or not. Even though those guys seemed intent on murdering him, he's suddenly staggering out of the bar, looking no worse for wear. The show continues to have no concept of what a discretion shot is, because we are treated to the sight of him vomiting all over the road before he curses the drunks and stumbles off into the darkness. Sometime later, Trevor awakens under a tree in some forest. He expresses interest in a nearby town, only to spot some of those monsters from the previous episode, one of which has a baby in its mouth. Yeesh. We hear screaming, and then that and the vomiting suddenly don't seem so bad, as we're shown a bunch of new horrifying scenes. A woman wakes up next to her slaughtered husband, don't ask me how she's still alive. Another freaks out over an empty, blood-stained crib, and there are heads impaled on spikes everywhere in town. Trevor approaches to find the town gate blocked, though I'm not sure what the point of that is. It's clearly not keeping the monsters out, and they have wings. If anything, it just makes it harder for the townspeople to escape. Then again, it did seem blocked from the outside, so maybe that was actually done to try and trap the monsters. Anyway, Trevor heads in via a sewer pipe, and I think I would actually rather starve, personally. At least he doesn't touch the walls with his bare hands. Though, he'll still get germs all over him from handling that cloak. I guess non-germaphobes don't really think about stuff like that, though. There are guards posted on the other side. Before realizing one is asleep, Trevor is ready to murder him on the off chance someone in town will feed him. The town looks slightly less gory than a few minutes ago, but the people are clearly having a rough time of things. There's a pile of male corpses below a bridge, which Trevor spits on for some reason. Like, dude, you don't even know these people. Trevor continues to survey the area, and shout out to the people cleaning up some of the gore from earlier. Wiping up blood is bad enough, but I feel bad for the guys we see using brooms to get intestines down from stuff. As Trevor buys what little food he can afford, a woman tells him how they don't need a defense effort because they have speakers in town. Once they've done what needs to be done, the demons will leave them alone, and if that doesn't sound exactly like the attitude that got them into this mess... We see Trevor talking to various people, but don't get to hear what they're saying, unfortunately. Finally, we get to hear a man relaying an old legend about the sleeping soldier. Supposedly, a great hero from 100 years ago sleeps below the catacombs, waiting until he's needed again. As someone who's played the games, I wonder if this might be a certain someone, but I guess we'll see. Certainly taking his time, though. The man urges Trevor to keep quiet about it, as the new bishop hates the old wisdom, pointing out how the bishop's men come during the day while the monsters come at night. A woman whose design I love relays her suspicion that the speakers are making the sleeping soldier ill, to leave them defenseless, while a creepy man thinks they should all just listen to the bishop. So what happened to Bishop Science Hater? I wanted to see him die. Trevor finally finishes eating his single piece of goat meat, the frick took him so long, and then witnesses two priests shoving some dude in bluish robes into a back alley. Despite the latter's peaceful attitude, the priests are hostile and pull out what I am calling a weapon of God. They clearly hate the robed man, who can apparently see things they can't, though the man insists he has no magic. As Trevor tries to tell himself to keep walking, the robed man keeps calmly trying to defend himself. The priests identify him as a speaker, and they're mad that the man didn't listen to orders to be out of town with his kind by sunset. The speaker has a great line, "Will killing an old man make you less scared of the dark?" before Trevor saves him from death and takes off a priest's finger. Said priest, the main aggressor throughout all this, demands Bald Priest kill Trevor, and I feel the slightest bit bad for Bald Priest. Like, you can basically see him asking himself which of these men he wants to tick off the least. He ultimately chooses to obey, however, whipping out the concealed dagger all priests naturally carry. Well, it turns out it's actually a thief's knife, and the priest shows some impressive moves for about 2 seconds before Trevor floors him and takes out his eye. This show is going to end up traumatizing me, I swear. Is that speaker guy going to be okay with this? He seems like the peace-loving type. After the priests are chased off, the speaker does say the violence wasn't necessary, but expresses some pretty heartfelt appreciation, which is nice. This dude is so going to die, isn't he? The really nice ones always die. The man introduces himself as the elder of a group of 11 speakers, and is walked back to his lodgings by Trevor. He stresses that they should be considered 12 in number, stating that one of them is currently missing. Upon meeting the other speakers, Trevor learns at least one disapproves of his use of violence. The elder states the younger members believe words speak louder than actions. I wish people solved their problems that way, but words don't do much good if no one is listening, and these days, words have become a pretty terrible weapon in their own right. Trevor reveals he actually knows of the speakers, as his family got on quite well with them. There was an argument, however, when his father wanted to put their history down on paper, with the speakers being quite protective of their ways. Trevor shocks me by turning down an offer of food, as well as drink, once he realizes they only have water. Instead, he wants to know why they're there, or where it's been for a while due to how the church is blaming them for the attacks. The speakers know what's up, pointing out how it's actually the church that is responsible and how they wish to hide that fact. Some that were there that day 1 year ago relay how the church burned Dracula's wife as a witch. Trevor's actually clearly not happy about this, but pushes for an answer to his original question. The elder reveals that there are no doctors or aid in town, and they exist to help people in need. There is another reason, however, the sleeping soldier legend. Identifying himself as a Belmont, Trevor talks about how the speakers are a nomadic tribe that memorize and carry around entire histories, and also have users of magic among their number. The speakers believe the sleeping soldier exists, and reveal the missing one went in search of him. Asked about his plans, Trevor states his intention to simply search for food and more alcohol. When called out on his lack of compassion, we get to see the bitterness he feels over the church going after his family, the only people who stood a chance against Dracula and his minions. This was what they chose, though the speaker points out how the ordinary people had no say in the matter. Trevor points out those types of men are only in power because ordinary people stood aside and kept quiet, a sentiment rather similar to the one Dracula himself expressed a year ago, after Lisa's death. There's always a choice, he claims, but I don't entirely agree for the reasons I stated previously. Trevor urges them to leave town, not wanting to see them die too. The younger speaker reveals the missing one is the elder's granddaughter, whom they can't even bury, though the elder insists they are staying for the people. Trevor asks if they will wait outside the city and offer aid to the survivors after the horde comes if he manages to recover the girl's body, though wouldn't the horde still just kill them? When asked why he would do this, Trevor reveals that the people they want to protect will come for them soon. He heard them talking about it in the marketplace. He relates to the speaker's plight, knowing what it is like to be persecuted by his own country for the mistake of simply being born. The speakers agree to his terms, and after committing apple thievery, he makes to depart. Elder spouts more cool lines, but Trevor says he doesn't care and just leaves. You know, for someone who says he doesn't care, Trevor certainly seems to care a lot. So, that was the second episode. Honestly, not sure how to feel about it. Not bad by any means, but not a lot happened. And considering this is only a 4-episode season, But it did make me excited for the next one, especially if I'm right about the identity of the sleeping soldier. So, what did you think? Did you like this episode? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!